Hello and welcome to part 2 of Dockerizing a Laravel application. Last time we built the tutorial engineering service and we kind of left the depth in there. We didn't finish the Docker file. So I'm gonna finish with you. We need to set in here the workdir, and workdir will be like var vvv because this is where we mapped everything. So we have workdir var vvv. Then we kind of need to keep the container up to date, so will be run apt-get update, and then I'm gonna install the default editor apt-get install dash y. Nano, it's the one I prefer, but you can install some other. In order to set this as default, you need to run export editor equals and then the path. Usually the programs are installed in user bin, so it will be like this default editor, and that will be all with the Docker file. And also, I realized that last time we put everything in the env example, we want that into the actual env. So I'm gonna move them here, and afterwards we're gonna put everything in the env example. To continue to install the PHP, we want to take some parts from this one that I kept here. So we want to run it the same as user and group. We want to use a build and a Docker file. So I'm gonna take that as well. The path now won't be like PHP, but Docker PHP. We need to create that folder. We want also the volumes, and maybe we want some more. So yeah, not really sure why he put like this. Okay, so come on, what's wrong? Ooh, yep. So it needs, okay, come on. So we have PHP ini supervisor conf. I'm gonna set on xdebug as well. So in all PHP application, I think is debug. It's a must. We'll see how you can debug using it. And thinking of what else could be in here. Okay, so let me move this a little lower. So yeah, we need the temporary file as well. So that will be like this. Oh, I know what happened. I'm gonna move these volumes a little above. So we have networks, we have um I yeah, like to keep networks last. So we have temporary. And the last thing, yeah, I forgot, it's to connect this tutorial PHP with the rest of the services. So in order to do that, I'm gonna use links, and in here in the links will be the services I want to connect. And PHP we want to connect to MySQL and Redis, and um, like this. I believe that's everything for the PHP. Now we need to add all the files and see the details of them. So we have a new directory PHP. We're gonna have a new Docker file in here. Um, some settings like xdebug, ini, then PHP ini. Okay, and then supervisor conf. Okay, supervisor conf. Okay. Let's go back in here. I think these are all the files, and we're gonna take one by one and edit. For this Docker file, actually I have something on the side, and I'm gonna copy and paste it, and we are going to discuss and explain you a little bit what's extra beside the one we built for the projects. So the first part, it's almost the same. Now we start from PHP 8.1 instead of 8.0. Then we add the cron um, as well. So we have the cron in here. We want to run a cron. We install some extra libraries in here like default MySQL client, OpenSSH client, and some other libraries. If we go to the Laravel website, there are like server requirements, and in here there are all the extensions that PHP need in order like to run a Laravel application. So you can like follow this and yeah, add all the necessary needed. Then the same editor, export it, install Composer, install some PHP extensions, install some image manipulation like Imagic, Redis, Xdebug, and enabled latest node. And the bit that it's a little bit extra, it's this. So I'm gonna like um, do like tutorial. So we're gonna have like tutorial cron tutorial, um, adding like running cron tab as VV data, and then the socket that I already show you, and then switch back to the user VV data. And I think that's like all for this Docker file. In the like we need like to create this like cron tab, which I didn't create. So we need like to add a new file cron tab. And for Laravel, it's like quite simple to run a cron tab. So it's defining the bash, and then like every minute go to var vvv, and with path to PHP run artisan scheduler run, and the output I set to be like in cron that log um, from within storage. And that's like the cron tab. Then we have like let's go one by one. So I'm going like to Xdebug, and for Xdebug I'm also like adding something in here. So in order like to run Xdebug, we need to have like a host Docker internal, because we are like running through Docker. And in order to have this exposed, I need to add something else to the Docker Compose file. What I need to like add to the Docker Compose file is to actually expose that port. So I'm gonna go ports 9001 to be 9001. Okay, I need to be like this, and I need to define another like variable, which will be like extra host. And for extra host here, I'm gonna say that hosts that docker that internal, it's going to be like host gateway. So like this, and now we'll be able to like run Xdebug. You will see in a second. Actually, maybe not in a second, but you'll see soon the configuration for it. And that will be like the Xdebug configuration. We need to add the user and group ID, like I showed you last time in the env. So we have like user ID 1000, group ID 1000. So every time, don't forget to add your um, env variables to the example as well. So we can like maybe put something in there or leave them empty. It doesn't matter. Um, just don't add sensitive data to them. Okay, so we have, oh, the supervisor. Okay, so the supervisor, it's like next. For the supervisor, like what we're gonna have extra. So we have the like the Unix HTTP server, the supervisor, the RCP interface, CTLU, and then Extra, it's this cron. So we want to like run the cron as user VV data, and Laravel has like a queue. We want to run that queue for Laravel as well. So we run it through supervisor. And that's like for the supervisor conf. And in the PHP ini, we can like, I don't know, add some I don't know, some things in here. So we can do max execution time, um, which I don't know, maybe okay, 600 seconds. um, and yeah, no, maybe a memory limit. Yeah, we can adjust them like while while running the application to see the best settings for it. And that will be like everything. So we have cron tab, we have docker, php ini, supervisor conf, and xdebug. Yep, we have them all. So that will be like all for the php um, service. So we have tutorial php service. The next one to build, it's like the MySQL. So we have like container name restart unless stopped, and in here we want to use an image. So MySQL, like I told you last time, but I want to be like specific with the version. So I'm gonna go like, come on, I'm gonna go with 8, and the latest 8, I believe it's like uh, 8.0.31 or 32. Yeah, it's 31. So I want to like go specific with this one. In case, let's say in the future, I want to like upgrade, I'm gonna go like change this after I'm testing locally or somewhere, and then like, yeah, switch to 32, or maybe I don't know, 8.1. But I want to like test it locally before like switching to a new version. Same with PHP, right? I locked it at 8.1. The Nginx, I don't care because the configuration more or less won't be like breaking change. But for the others, I don't know, maybe not being able to like getting an old database when switching to a new version. So because of that, we want like to have a specific version. Then we're gonna map some volumes, right? So the volume will be, we create a new folder MySQL, all right? And in here we're gonna add conf.d. So I'm gonna go like with let's say mysql.conf, or yeah, or maybe not MySQL, since it's so myconf.conf sounds better. So I'm gonna say that docker mysql, and then myconf will be mapped inside MySQL container in etc mysql conf.d, and then um, myconf doesn't matter the name because all the files in here are automatically loaded. Okay. Okay, now we want this container to like always start, all right, to keep it up and running. We are using an image. We can like go anymore with, let's say like this, cmd. So we need to define a command in here. In order to do that, we can use command, and command will be um, I'm gonna use one line. So we'll have dash dash default um, authentication plugin. Authentication. Authentication, I believe like this. Yep. Plugin. So equals, we want to use native password. So we run it like this, and yeah, the, it will like use MySQL native password to run this image. We want also to be able to have like to define a MySQL user password and so on, right? For that we use environment, and for environment we define what we want to use, and what's the value of that. So maybe we want to like define a root password. All of that actually can be found on this image. So if I like open MySQL and I go to like any tag, um, it's like not on GitHub but on like um, yeah, in here, right, on the documentation. um, they give examples how to use like environment. So we have MySQL root password, database, user password, and so on. So you have them all in here. So from there, they are like taken. So you know. So I'm gonna define like this. So I want to like set it in env. So that will be like a new variable in the env file. Sorry. Okay. Then we're gonna have like an user, which will be the env variable from the actual Laravel. So if we go in here, we have um, it's actually db username and db password. So it's go. This is what I'm going to add in here: db username, and then we'll have password, and in here will be like db password, and then the database, the last one, which will be MySQL database, and in here will be DB database. Yep, DB database. And that's like all for environment. If we want like to access this container from outside its stack, we want to like define an external port. So in order like to maybe, I don't know, keep it um, in the env, right, we can like do this. So we can do like external port, and then to be mapped to the internal port of the MySQL, which is 3306, and put them in the network as we put it last time. And that will be all for the MySQL. Okay, let me delete that because we no longer need it. And the last one, it's like the Redis. Okay, we have this. If we want to like run Redis with a password, from my experience, um, I found a way to like build it. So I'm gonna like copy and paste some things, you know, in here. Um, so will be like this. So yep, those two. So we need to like build an Docker file, and that for that we need to like create a new file, oh, a new folder, sorry. um, let's say Redis, and then a new file that will be the Docker file. Okay, if I name it correctly, yeah, yep. So will be like Docker file. Okay. Um, and yeah, we need to this Redis password come from Laravel, which is defined in here. Redis password. We can actually put something in here like tutorial. We're gonna edit this CMV anyway. So we have like read, we want to use an external port, and this is a configuration needed for Redis to like run on a container in Windows. And that will be all. We just need to add the missing environments and to like have this defined. So we have um, MySQL root password. Right, we're gonna put some password in here. Then we have like the MySQL external port that we need to define, and then we have the Redis password. It's already in there. Redis external port if we want at some point to access it from outside, and that's all. Um, Now I realized on MySQL conf I didn't put anything, so I'm gonna again um, put some things that I kind of like built. These values might be way too high, but yeah, just to keep it on the safe side. And then for the last bit, it's the like the Redis Docker file. And for the Redis Docker file, it's quite simple. We're gonna start from Redis. Let me make bigger. So yeah. Then I'm gonna say take argument the Redis password we are like sending to this Docker file, and then um, say add this as an env variable. So will be add Redis password as env, and that will be like the Redis password defined as arg. And then the last bit it's actually to kind of like start Redis. So will be like the hash, sorry, dash c, and then exec Redis server, and then require pass, and then will be um like the password, but we need to like code it. So will be like this, and in here we're gonna have Redis password, and that's it. Okay. I think that's like, oh, we are like ready to run.